Hey y'all, welcome to Just Wing It with Adriana,
Crystal,
and Samantha. This is an advice podcast where you can send us your questions about life,
and we'll try helping you to just wing it because that's what we do best. Hey guys.
Hello.
Hey y'all, how's everyone?
Good.
Was that supposed to be the podcast, people?
I don't know.
You're like, we have a special guest.
But in the meantime, if y'all want to submit any questions, you guys can click on our link, which is in our Insta profile, and that is
Just Wing It _podcast.
Or you can submit your questions to our email, which is
justwingitacs@gmail.com.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So let's just get this started with this murder. What do you have for us, Crystal?
Ooh. All right, and just like always, I'm going to say my sources. I did use Murderpedia, YouTube, and just Google. I Googled shit that I wasn't sure about and then got confirmation. So that's how it worked. Okay, so I'm going to start by telling you guys all the facts of the details of the stuff that was committed at first, and then we're going to get into who actually was the ones that committed this.
Okay.
So, in the spring of 1987, a sexual predator was roaming the streets of Scarborough, Canada. So, we're safe. It was in Canada. It wasn't here. The attacks first started of a man fondling women. So he would just see them and he would just start touching on them, but it never grew into anything. But over the next 13 months, the assaults grew more violent. And in that year, 4 rapes were committed and 1 attempted rape. In May, he committed his first rape on a 21-year-old girl for more than half an hour in front of her parents' house. 10 days later, he raped a 19-year-old girl for over an hour in the backyard of her parents' house.
Dude,
No, that's like the worst. Like
You're right there.
You're at home, exactly.
Yes.
like the place where you feel more safe. Like, are you kidding me?
And for that long.
Yes.
But how? I'm like, Mom!
Yeah.
Get your ass out of here!
So 2 months later, you're dumb.
I know you're at home playing PlayStation. Turn that shit off!
Like, this is not a funny situation,
It's
but
not.
no.
It's not. But like, I'm
But-
just saying, like, just to bring some
Humor,
some humor
yes,
to
yes.
it.
We just want to
But no,
make sure, yeah.
It is. That's just scary though.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well,
she-
2 months later, in July, he attempted rape again. However, he beat her so bad that she actually fought back, and he eventually left. So she never was actually raped.
Oh, what advice did we
fight
give?
back.
Yes.
We said at least
Fight
30
back.
seconds because if they have
Or
to
more,
fight for it,
don't be
don't be 30
give up.
and then give up.
Yeah,
You're
no.
like 1, 2, 3, hitting.
Yeah, 30 seconds. Do what you gotta do.
Seriously.
No, but what do we see? The ones who fight back, that's their advice right there.
Yeah, the other ones probably didn't.
Yeah.
Or they were too scared,
yes.
we don't know if he threatened them or whatever.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
So this happened in July. He waited until December this time, and he raped a 15-year-old girl for an hour. A week later, he raped a 17-year-old girl and had a knife, which he would threaten his victims.
That's
That's how they kept quiet, because he actually was threatening them with knives. The attacker would grab the women as they were coming off of the bus or walking through the park, and he would pull them behind bushes where he would sexually assault them. Women were forced to perform intercourse, oral sex, sodomy, and they were sometimes even beaten.
Dude, I would have bit his dick.
Imagínate.
I would have.
Seriously. In the year of 1988, he committed 3 rapes and 2 attempts. So in April, he raped a 17-year-old girl for 45 minutes. The following month, an 18-year-old girl for 30 minutes. In October, he attempted rape. However, his victim actually fought back, but he did hurt her. She had 2 stab wounds in her right thigh and butt, which required 12 stitches. But she lived, and she
didn't
didn't
have
get
that
raped.
kind of traumatized.
Yeah.
But that means like he really was. But yeah, I mean, I guess I would rather be stabbed than
Right. I mean, you're fighting for your life. Because honestly, Like, let's say he does rape you.
Yeah.
What do you, like, how do you know he's not going to try to kill you afterwards?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't know that.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So I would just fight for my life. I don't give a shit if you're going to try to stab me. I'd rather take a stab than anything, you know?
The next month, he raped an 18-year-old girl in her parents' backyard. That same year, the media would call him the Scarborough Rapist. The police then started taking statements from women, but they couldn't get an accurate description of him because all the females that were attacked from behind.
Yeah.
So all they could say is that he was young, good-looking, with light-colored hair. No one really ever saw his face. The police then found something in common with all the attacks. The attacker would force the girls to call themselves names like slut, whore, bitch. So as he was doing things to them, he would tell them to call themselves names. So that's what they were doing. And by the end of 1988, they were able to link more attacks to the Scarborough Rapist, bringing up the number to 7 victims. The attacks grew more and more vicious, and the police became more concerned that it could lead into a homicide. In June of 1989, he attempted rape again, but she fought back and she started screaming, which alerted her neighbors, and he actually fled away. The following month, he raped a 22-year-old. He had been stalking the previous night outside of her window of her apartment and waited for her to come home, and that one lasted 2 hours. Yes. The following month in November, he attacked a 15-year-old girl for 45 minutes. The next month in December, a 19-year-old for 30 minutes in an underground parking lot. So y'all gotta be fucking careful.
Gosh.
In May of 1990, he committed his 11th rape on a 19-year-old girl that lasted over an hour. She got a pretty good look at him, so she was able to give a sketch, or you know how like the police bring in people to do a sketch artist of what the rapist looked like. Once this hit the media, they started getting calls about who they thought it looked like. You know, they started getting calls, everyone. I don't.
Okay.
I didn't get any pictures. But there is pictures.
Okay. So we could post it.
Yeah. So they started bringing people in and interviewing them and actually taking people's DNA. So if they would be willing to give it, you know, they would take people's DNA. Mm-hmm. But you know, if you don't give your DNA, then they start looking like, oh, you're suspicious. Mm-hmm. You don't want to give your DNA for a reason, you know?
Yep.
So around that same time that they were taking people's DNAs, the attacks stopped. It went cold, it stopped, and...
Oh, they didn't want to get caught.
You're scared. Mm-hmm. You know why? You know what they do to people in prison who do that.
Suddenly, the attacks started happening in the next city of St. Catharines. So they just stopped in that city that they were in, but started to another city. On Saturday, June 29th, 1991, in St. Catharines, a fisherman fishing on Lake Gibson say they saw several partially submerged concrete blocks in the water and found pieces of human flesh coming out of them. They called the police. The police started getting in the water, searching for more clues, and they actually found 8 blocks containing body parts. The victim was then confirmed to be a 14-year-old girl by the name of Leslie Muffey.
Wait, but these blocks were floating?
Yes.
I wonder how they were floating.
I don't know if maybe they were like
it's cement.
Yeah, cement. You would think it would like sink.
Maybe because there was things in it.
No, it would make it heavier, don't you think, to where it would still sink?
I think because it was a flowing lake, it was Semovia, and it was actually towards the edge of it.
Okay.
Is why they saw it partially submerged. Because it wasn't floating, it was partially submerged. It was like on the side.
Okay.
For our listeners who don't speak Spanish, can we please have a translate?
Oh, yes. What did I say?
Semovia?
Semovia, it moved. It would move.
Moving.
Sorry.
Moving.
Sorry, my Spanish starts coming out.
You go, girl. You do your thing.
The victim was then to be confirmed 14-year-old girl Leslie Muffey from the next nearby town of Burlington. Not Burleson. Burlington.
You said this was in Canada.
I knew y'all were going to say something. She actually had been missing for 2 weeks. So almost a year later, on April 16, 1992, who was born in 1992?
Samantha.
Mm-hmm.
But you still weren't born.
I was still in the womb.
Yes. 15-year-old Kristen French had gone missing from St. Catharines. 2 weeks later, on April the 30th, a man looking for scrap metal finds the body of Kristen in a ditch on the side of the road in Burlington. Kristen had been sexually assaulted, beaten, and then strangled. Her body was found less than a quarter mile away from the cemetery where Leslie was buried the year earlier. Police suspected that the two might be connected because Leslie was abducted from Burlington and her body was found in St. Catharines. Kristen was abducted from St. Catharines and her body was found in Burlington. So like it was just between swapped.
The states.
Yes.
I mean cities.
The police also suspected that the person making these vicious kills has an accomplice after eyewitnesses report to the police that the victim was seen talking to two people just before she disappeared. So here goes information on the killer. His name is Paul Kenneth Bernardo. He was born on August 27th, 1964. He was a result of his mother's affair with her boyfriend and was the last of 3 kids. However, it wasn't made aware to him as a child that his father wasn't actually his father. So this whole time that he was growing up, he thought that his dad was really his dad. Mm-hmm. The family was fairly wealthy but very dysfunctional. His father was abusive to his mother, and family always thought that he wasn't good enough for anything. Mm-hmm. His mother was actually very verbally abusive. At the age of 10, he started doing shit he wasn't supposed to and started starting fires with twigs and magnifying glasses. His father actually was charged with child molestation for fondling a girl. He was also sexually abusing his own daughter.
Wow. That's disgusting.
I know, like your own daughter.
Yeah, it's like that's your baby girl, you know? That's disgusting.
Your mind has to be like in a whole completely different space to think of shit like that.
Like not even in your own home you're safe.
Yes.
I'm surprised this, serial killer isn't the girl.
Yeah.
Seriously.
No, dude, anything to do with, like, kids.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, shit. Yeah, anything to do with kids and being, like, hurt or molested or whatever, dude, I just get, I can't deal with it. I want to, punch everybody. Mm-hmm.
Punch old people.
Yeah.
Cookies. No.
So at the age of 15, he found his first love, which he, of course, was overprotective and controlling, and she eventually left him when he became aggressive and abusive to her. At the age of 16, he actually found out that his dad wasn't his biological father, and he began calling his mom a slut and a whore and a bitch.
Oh,
and
gosh.
She would answer back telling him that he was a bastard and other awful things.
Oh, damn. So she's like, oh, okay, you want to
play?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she also...
Good parenting.
Around that same time, Paul became a peeping Tom. He would begin peeping through a female neighbor's windows as they undressed, and he actually was discovered by his stepfather. As the time went on, he became more aggressive. He then started going to college September of 1983, where he was liked by many and seemed like a normal guy. He was very handsome and had several girlfriends, but then they would end up breaking up with him once their sexual relationship became abusive.
Dang.
He would actually when he wanted to find a girl and didn't have a girlfriend, he would go to bars and clubs to pick up females, have one-night stand, but he would be like hella fucking rough and aggressive when he would sleep with them.
Dang.
And at the age of 23, he met a 17-year-old girl by the name of Carla Homolaka. I don't know how to fucking say her last name, okay? But that's what we're gonna go with.
She's tried like 6 times.
I know.
Okay, so side note, at this point when he met her, he had already raped 3 girls.
Oh, damn.
And so a little backstory on Carla. Carla was the eldest of 3 daughters, and she had a great family. The family was very loving, very supportive, and very close. She was a very popular girl at school, and she was very pretty. She grew up in St. Catharines. So Paul was 6 years older than her. And when they first met, Paul swept her off her feet. They did, however, have a one-night stand the first night that they actually met. And she ended up giving him her number, and he actually stuck around. So at first, Paul would shower her with flowers and gifts and treat her like a princess, and she thought that he actually was a nice guy. Over the next year and a half, Paul would actually drive 80 miles multiple times a week to visit Carla since they were going to school in different towns. So Carla was actually still in high school and he was in college. So he would drive 80 fucking miles to go see her multiple times a week.
Over an hour.
Yes, like that's determination. However, him being sweet and all of that changed quickly. He started telling her what to wear, what to eat, how to act. He even started calling her fat, ugly, and stupid.
Oh, hell no.
Oh, boy. That's the first and the last time. You good.
But, of course, Carla wouldn't tell anyone because she wanted everyone to think that they were this perfect couple and everything was great. So her family loved him. They thought that he was charming, kind, and had no issues with him. Her parents, as a matter of fact, thought that he was the most perfect guy for her. In spring of 1989, Carla graduated from high school, and at this point, he had already raped 7 girls. So he was still raping women.
Wait, while he was with her?
While he was with her. He was still doing his thing.
I wonder if she knows.
By the fall of that year, Carla had already been telling people that Paul was verbally abusive to her and that she had been thinking about leaving him. But she never would. He would do some kind of shit and she would always end up forgiving him.
Been there, done that.
Mm-hmm. We've all been stupid. Mm-hmm. Not that fucking stupid. You call me fucking fat, you're getting stabbed, okay? So whenever he would fuck up,
the one thing that we're like, no, you crossed the line.
Seriously.
But Crystal, nobody's gonna call you fat.
I know. Someone who's insecure might just to be dumb.
Mm-hmm.
You see these beautiful girls and their man's calling them ugly so they can feel ugly, so they think they're ugly and they think the rest of the world thinks they're ugly, but they're really gorgeous.
Yes.
Y'all let me know if y'all, I'm sure they're not, but yeah.
That's me punching you.
Yep. That's why I raise Sadie like I do.
Hell yeah.
People are like, you're cute. She's like, I know. Come on.
Seriously. That's my baby. Mm-hmm. So whenever he would do things whenever he would fuck up, he would always do something romantic and over the top. So
apologize.
Yes, for her to forgive him. So by December of that same year, they went on a romantic trip to the Niagara Falls, and that's when he asked her to marry him. And of course, her dumbass said yes.
Dang.
So right away, they started planning the wedding. So to backtrack a little bit, remember when I told y'all that the Scarborough rapist sketch came out? Well, that was in 1990. Was when it actually came out. Well, some of Paul's friends started noticing a resemblance. And they started calling the cops, telling them that they thought it looked a lot like Paul.
You said friends? They ain't no friends.
Seriously.
No, just kidding. You ain't no man.
You ain't no man. No, and then?
That's horrible. Y'all better not be like, hey, come and talk to me first.
Like, what body do you have under your bed that I have to get rid of?
Those are friends. You'd be like, oh, snap, this looks like Sam.
Seriously.
Let me call the cops. No, I'm going to call Sam like,
bitch,
why
we
the
gotta
fuck
go.
do you look like this person?
And
why?
please tell me you have gotten rid of the body. Just kidding, guys.
Realize we're saying this about Sam?
I know.
We're not saying Nana or me.
Oh, gosh.
So, in fact, whenever, the friends started being snitches, he actually did go in
on this real serial killer. It's coming out.
Sorry, let me compose myself. So he actually did go in and do an interview and give his DNA. But since DNA wasn't like 100%, and there were hundreds of people calling and actually going in and doing interviews and DNAs, that all they would do is get everyone's DNA and throw it into like this huge ass fucking pile. And they would like slowly just pick from there. But of course, you have this huge ass fucking pile of people. And
how many times did they like skip over his? Like they skip over and be like, I'll do this one.
Mm-hmm. Yes, like we're just not going to be worried about it.
And it's because it's so many tests that they have to run, and they only have certain people.
And then they have other cases and stuff,
the
other things that they have maybe that are
not focused on just this one case.
Yes.
And then?
So around that same time is when he actually moved to St. Catharines with Carla, with her parents, until they could afford a place of their own. Not long after that, Paul started bitching at Carla for not being a virgin. So he would get angry.
Why the fuck?
We already been dating for years. What does that matter?
Yes. So he was actually angry because he wasn't the one who took her virginity away. He wanted to have sex with a virgin. And all of his victims...
I wish somebody would.
Yes, they were all really young.
Age. 15.
Imagine your man being like, look, I won't be mad if you just let me have that experience.
No, shut the fuck up and get over it, or we're done, fucker.
Hold on.
Oh, we're all getting high.
I know. Hold on. Because you're about to lose your fucking minds. He then started looking at Carla's 15-year-old sister, Tammy. She was pretty, a virgin, and she was a virgin that Carla wasn't. Carla knows that her fiancé... She knew that her fiancé was looking at her little sister. He began peeping through her window and going into her room, masturbating while Tammy was asleep.
Did Carla know? First name basis?
Carla even helped him by breaking the blinds in her sister's room so Paul can see on her sister.
That is so
disgusting. If someone even hinted, like, if someone came to me and was like, even glanced, like, the wrong way,
yes.
I'd be like, do we have a problem?
What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. You want me to throw this burning hot oil on you?
Hit you with the fucking frying pan?
Oh, heck no.
So
I'm so angry I can't even think of a good threat. Like something juicy, you know? I'm like, I would
paper cut your ass.
In between your fucking toes.
And your eyelids. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. There you go. When I'm so mad, I'm like, I could just paper cut their damn eyelids.
Oh my god. So, Paul begins to pressure Carla to let him have sex with her younger sister. She then agrees.
Girl, you dumb. You ain't game, you lame. Cardi B.
I swear we talk about Cardi B in
like
every fucking episode.
Maybe she'll be a guest.
Y'all start tagging her.
I'm freaking sad, Cardi B. And I'm just so fucking excited that you're here.
Seriously.
I want first question.
Not even be able to say.
I know. What made you think of you? That game, you lame.
Who did you think of when you wrote this?
I know y'all can't see this, but Sam just sniffed Crystal.
I know. I envisioning that I was Cardi. So, what they decide to do is they decide to drug her so she would have sex. So it was on December 23, 1990.
Before Christmas?
Right before Christmas.
Oh,
she told him that this is his Christmas present.
After
everyone had gone to bed, Paul and Carla invited Tammy to stay up with them to have a few cocktails. But what Tammy didn't know is that they laced her drinks with sleeping pills that Carla bought herself.
Dude, like, how can you do that to your own sister?
To your sister. She also stole some general anesthesia that she took from her veterinary right? Mm-hmm. Clinic that she worked at.
Oh, I was about to say, I have trouble just finding Tylenol.
No, that she worked at. So what she did is she grabbed a rag and she soaked it with the liquid of it, and she kept it over her sister's face while Paul raped her. And on top of that, they videotaped the whole thing.
I would be like, not that I would even agree to something dumb like that, because you definitely, like, you gotta go.
Yes.
But what does that have to do with you're complaining about that, she's not a virgin or whatever? Why do we need to record it?
Yeah. Well, she agreed. Paul then orders Carla to rape her sister, and she does.
Wait,
meanwhile,
what?
it's all on tape.
Oh,
so she
dummies.
even did it to her own sister. And while the camera was rolling.
Dude, you must be fucked up in the head.
Yeah, Carla had to be super weak-minded in order to do something like that. Because I feel like someone in their right mind would literally be like, this has to be a joke. Yeah, and even if it is a joke, like, no, there's something wrong with you. Mm-hmm. I would assume somebody in their right mind would be able to identify that. Like,
yes.
What do you... what are you even doing?
Yes.
Like, someone jokes like that, you have to be, like, alarmed.
Yeah.
Like, we're not fucking friends anymore.
Not like, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
what the heck?
So, as Carla was raping her, Tammy actually begins to vomit and she starts choking on her own vomit. That Paul and Carla got scared. They dressed her quickly, hid the camera, and called 911 because she actually stopped breathing. When the police got there, they told the police that she had passed out from drinking so heavily, and they tried to resuscitate her. Because whenever they found her, she had burn marks around her face.
Because
from
of
the thing that they were holding over her mouth was burning through her skin. So what they said was that when she fell face down, that they moved her and she got carpet burn on her face. And they fucking believed it.
But if you think about it, I'm sure you don't walk in assuming a scenario that...
like this.
Yes.
Like, yeah, exactly like this. It would make sense that you're with your family, you kind of got drunk, and your family tried to help you, they're maybe drinking, and it's like, oh, that does make sense, and then, you know?
It could have happened, yeah. However, in the early hours of Christmas Eve, she actually was pronounced dead.
Oh.
And they...
Are you freaking kidding me?
They concluded that she had died from natural causes.
Dude, that is like the worst story ever. You're not allowed to do podcast murders anymore.
No more, Crystal. Why?
And get this. At the funeral, Paul was actually caught stroking her hair as she laid in the open casket.
Oh, nasty.
Yes. A month later, Paul and Carla actually moved out into their own home to let their parents grieve out Tammy's death.
Dude, what the fuck? I can't.
Like, wrap your mind that has really happened to somebody.
Yes, like it's not made up. I swear, this is actual facts.
I can't believe that, dude. That honestly is, like, so sad.
Mm-hmm. That's...
Like, it makes you so angry at the fact that somebody lost their life because somebody's sister was being so dumb enough to allow that to happen.
Yes.
And then you didn't want to end with a fucking happy story, Crystal. I'm so angry.
So, now that they had engaged in this together, he felt more comfortable around her, that then he started teasing Carla, telling her that he was actually the Scarborough rapist. And he actually begins to beat her. She did think about leaving him this time, but then he would threaten her that if she left, he would tell her parents about her involvement in Tammy's death.
You think about leaving him, not after the fact that he not only raped and killed your sister, but the fact that he's beating
her sister.
Yeah, but she doesn't think to leave then, but it says, like, he hits you and it's like, oh, maybe I should leave.
I know.
No, you don't even, or just the fact that he was just like, let me have sex with your sister. Like, you don't leave him then
Seriously.
either, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
he gives you black eyes, like, maybe it's time to leave. He killed your sister, girl!
Hey. So at this point, it had been 2 months since Paul had given his DNA to the police, and they still hadn't tested it. So Paul was thinking he had gotten away with it and outsmarted the police. And by the looks of it, it looked like Tammy wasn't enough for Paul. He then starts telling Carla that he wants another virgin and that she needs to find someone, and that he suggested to get one of Tammy's friends. And what does she do?
Gets one of Tammy's friends.
Tammy's the sister who passed, right?
Yes.
Oh, heck no.
Well, that's exactly what she did. On June 7th, 1991, she befriended her 15-year-old girl that she actually invited over to her house to have a girls' night. She took her shopping, then out to eat, and then back to her house.
Like a typical girls' day.
Yeah.
Like shopping, eat, let's come back, let's relax.
So once they got home, she actually started giving her large amount of alcohol, which was laced with a sedative. Once she lost consciousness, Carla called Paul and told him that she had a surprise wedding gift for him.
This was in 92, right?
This is in 91.
So at this time, were they not able, I guess, to identify like when? Because they said that the sister died of natural causes.
Mm-hmm.
So, but she's lacing these girls. So I wonder if at that time they hadn't. Now they can tell you like,
exactly.
It's not natural causes because we found this in the system.
I guess
so. I wonder if that's how they were gotten away. Try that stuff now. See what happens though.
Man. So and then Crystal.
So whenever Paul came over, they undressed her together, And Paul videotaped Carla having sex with her first before he did. The next morning, the friend woke up, nauseous and throwing up, with no recollection of what had happened the night before. But she thought that she was so nauseous because she had gotten so fucked up the day before. But it was because of all the fucking shit that had given her.
The drugs.
Yes. Yeah. So on June 15, 1991...
Wait, and she's alive. Like, they let her
go.
Yes.
Yeah. Because she didn't remember anything. She woke up and she was so unconscious. She didn't remember shit, so they let her go.
And she probably just thinking like she spent the night at her homegirl's house, had a good time.
Yeah, she probably just has a hangover.
And if these girls are passed out, I when I hear this story, I think to this man, like the bodies that they're doing this to, they're not bodies, like they're not people to him. They're are not, legit just bodies. Like that's what it is, just
He's
bodies.
Too worried about what he wants to do than to think about anything else.
Dude, like that is so sick.
Yes.
Dude, I'm sorry, Crystal, I know you want to continue,
no,
but just to like go on like her, I have a surprise for you. Like she's at this point, I don't feel like she's being weak. I feel like she's
enjoying this shit
too. She's enjoying it as well. Exactly.
She's getting her giggles out of this.
Yeah.
Well, on June 15, 1991, 8 days after the friend and just 2 weeks before their wedding, Paul wakes up Carla in the middle of the night with a surprise. It was a young girl, a 14-year-old girl by the name of Leslie. He had kidnapped her from her own backyard by luring her into his car with a cigarette. Like, stranger danger, bitch. Didn't your mama teach you not to talk to strangers over a fucking cigarette?
Or even a cigarette.
But if he was handsome, she was probably like, oh yeah, like being a little... I didn't want to say that because something bad happened to her, but basically...
True. So, Paul intended to actually keep Leslie as a sex slave. So Carla, for some reason, agreed, and they repeatedly raped her, all while recording it. And so much for keeping her as a sex slave, because they actually ended up strangling her, cutting her body up into little pieces, placing them in concrete blocks that they eventually threw into Lake Gibson. 2 weeks later, 16 miles away, Leslie's body was found that same day that Paul and Carla were getting married.
What?
The truth came out. How funny. Not funny, but what a coincidence that happened the day they got married.
Oh my god.
Yes. Honestly, I would be so paranoid. I would know, like, girl, I don't. You might
they
have
were
to
just
do
living
like
their best life.
150,000 Hail Marys or something. I don't.
Dude, so the 14-year-old girl, so they just cut her up into pieces instead of keep.
They kept her for a few days.
A baby.
And then.
And that's how she left the earth.
They strangled her and then they cut her up and to get rid of her body. So Carla thinks that once they get married, everything's going to be good. He had his fun now, and she will play the role of the wife and he the husband.
Oh,
and
they're
everything
gonna
will
live
be
like
perfect.
Happily ever after, like the little fairy tale with like a little apron.
Yes. Well,
no, sorry, honey. You'll be wearing a hairnet in prison.
He was still fucking thirsty. So Paul then demanded that Carla continues to get Tammy's friends around because he wanted to drug them and have sex with them just the way he did with the last friend. So Carla did just that. So over the next year, Carla would invite several young girls, virgin girls, into their home and drug them, assault them. And unlike Tammy, they all survived, regaining consciousness with no memory of what the assaults were. So there was multiple girls, but because they drugged them to a point where they couldn't remember, they would just let them go. So Paul continues to stalk females with Carla knowing that he's actually doing this. And on April 16th, 1992, they take a drive out looking for another girl that they could find to be their sex slave. They were only a few miles away from their home whenever they spot 15-year-old Kristen French walking home from school. They waited in a church parking lot as Kristen walked by. Carla was on the passenger seat, and of course Paul was driving. And as soon as they saw Kristen, Carla asked her for help with directions. That Carla even fucking had a map and everything, and she was trying to get her to help him. Kristen was distracted. Then she was forced to get into the car, so Carla went into the back seat, holding her and sitting her in the front seat, and Carla was in the back seat holding her by her hair so she wouldn't move. And they ended up driving back home.
Oh my god.
Soon after, she was reported missing by her parents when she didn't show up, and the police started looking for her.
That's the most scariest thing I think could ever happen to you in your whole life, is when like your baby is not home with you and you know that they're not where they need to be, or they're not with people who love them.
Yeah. Like
That
you know
honestly is the
on.
most terrifying thing ever.
Yes. So witnesses told police that she had been abducted from a church parking lot. They saw her talking to two people, and they saw her drive away in a beige Camaro with them. They also found her shoe at the scene. So the cops go out and try to find every beige Camaro they can find. Unfortunately, Paul drove a gold Nissan.
What the hell?
So they gave the wrong car. So of course,
it's like the luck. It's weird how like, you know, like, oh, okay, keep going.
So of course they were looking for the wrong fucking car this whole time. So the police start putting two and two together, and they start thinking that the same person who killed Leslie was the same person who actually took Kristen. So they started building a case around that, thinking that there were two people working together and maybe the cops can drive a wedge between them. In the meantime, Parla. I'm combining their fucking names together.
Carla Parla. Someone's tired.
In the meantime, Carla and Paul, I almost fucking did it again, kept Kristen for several days, forcing her to drink large amounts of alcohol, drugging her, raping her, sodomizing her, beating her, and of course, while it was all being videotaped. So they can add it to their collection, and then eventually, they strangled her.
How ugly.
Paul always actually intended to kill her because he never blindfolded her. So, that to me, that's also, like, if I see your face, I'm automatically going to think that you're going to kill me because I saw you and I can identify you.
Yep.
So on April the 30th, 1992, her body was found 30 miles away from their home in a ditch near the cemetery where Leslie was buried. She was naked and all of her hair was cut off.
Oh my gosh.
What? Is that what sodomizing is?
No, sodomizing her is like raping her on the butt.
Oh, ow.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Yeah, that's what they were doing to her. So the cops go on a hunt for a serial killer. Paul and Carla's relationship becomes more violent.
Dude, they're like monsters.
They are.
In January 1993, Paul severely beats Carla with a flashlight. That she actually was sent to the emergency room with 2 black eyes, a broken rib, and severe bruising. Her parents found her beaten and they took her out of the house.
All that work or stupid work she did, so he could still treat her like that.
Yep.
Because you think a guy is gonna change when they don't change. Guys who are controlling and abusive, they don't change at all.
No, they stay that way. So around the same time, y'all remember when I told y'all that he gave the police his DNA sample?
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 years later, here we are, and it is now just being processed. And this is for the Scarborough case.
Is this around the same time where she's got beat up with the...
Yes.
Okay, so like this is 2 years later. She's getting beat up with the flashlight.
And they finally run his DNA. And this is only for the Scarborough rape cases.
It's all ding ding ding.
They haven't linked up the killings to Leslie and Kristen also being from the Scarborough rapist.
They haven't linked this, so they think that's a separate case.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, after all the samples that they received, Paul finally is identified as the man responsible for the Scarborough rapes, and he is now living 80 miles away in Port Dalhousie, where both Leslie and Kristen were killed. So the cops actually call up Carla to talk to her. She thinks she's going to meet with them. Yes. She thinks that she's going to meet with them because... No, actually they haven't linked him to the murders. They only linked him to the rapes.
Okay.
But they call Carla and they tell her, let's meet up. But she thinks they're meeting up because of her husband beating her. But little does she know, they know that he's a Scarborough rapist. And they go in and they start interrogating her, and she's fucking like clueless, thinking like, "Oh, I'm gonna go in there because he fucking
caught off guard. No time to think of anything."
So it makes her nervous when she's interviewing that she eventually breaks down and confesses everything to her family. She thinks that the cops already know what they've done and they're about to find out. So her family tells her, "Let's go get an attorney." she tells them, so she goes to the attorney and she tells them that Paul is a Scarborough rapist. Then she also tells them that about her involvement in Leslie, Kristen, and her own sister Tammy's murder. So she ended up just saying everything.
If that was my daughter, I would be like, oh, well.
You're fucked.
Yeah, because I'm not paying for your attorney. No. And, I would be like, I don't even have a daughter. Yeah, like mine passed away. I know that's harsh, but I feel like that's how I would feel.
Yeah. So Carla agrees to actually testify against her husband in exchange to reduce her sentence for herself because she knows she's gonna go to fucking jail too.
But imagine being a parent and one of your children tell you,
I killed
the other one.
I raped and
for
killed
a guy.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. So the attorneys actually began to cut a deal
my ass will
with the
be
cops.
In jail for murder too.
Hell yeah.
Murdering my own kid.
No, seriously. Oh my god.
So she then makes a full confession to the police and confirms that Paul is a rapist and places all the blame on him for the murders and everything.
Dang, like she got ahead of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She says that Paul forced her to be part of the attacks against her own will. Carla also tells them that all the proof they need is in their house on the tapes. So the cops have it all. They know everything. And almost everything, because they think that it's all on Paul. Word somehow gets out that the cops know who the rapist and the killer is, so they want to move fast before Paul gets word of it and manages to escape. And on February 17th, 1993, police arrest Paul Bernardo and they get a permit to search the house. And they do a 71-day search of the house. However, police cannot... 71 days. They went every day to go search the house. But they never found the fucking tapes that Carla told them that the attacks were on. They never found them.
Wait, like ever?
So Carla...
Okay. I'm about to be like, oh, hell no! I'm about to just flip everything over. I'm about to lose it. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry.
Carla's word is all they have on Paul. Fact. The day Carla moved out, when she went to go get all her shit, she went when Paul wasn't there and she actually took all the tapes. So she knew that they weren't going to find anything anyways. She told them that there was tapes, but she went and she took them and told them she knew they weren't going to find them. So at the same time that this was going on, Paul's father was convicted on sex-related charges for molesting a child. So because Carla knows so much and she's willing to help them because she knows so much, they're willing to help her and do a plea deal with the prosecutors to make a deal to reduce her sentencing and her involvement in the murders.
They think like she's like, man, she's so helpful. Like.
Yeah. But they didn't tell anyone about this because they didn't want it to get back to Paul. So the day comes. On June 28, 1993, Carla is now being faced with charges against her. In court, her attorney portrays her as an abusive wife that was forced to participate in her husband's crimes. They give Carla manslaughter charges, so she gets 2 12-year sentences and is sent to prison. While she is in there, she actually files for divorce. Finally, the couple's missing videotapes finally surfaced, but they only found 6 of them. On May 18, 1995, so this was 2 years later, it is Paul's turn to go get on trial. And of course, he pleads not guilty to all charges against him.
Okay.
Yeah. So they play the tapes, and the tapes actually show a very different version of events that Carla had actually told the police. They show Carla laughing, enjoying all the torturing, and her willingly involvement in this. On one tape, Carla's even seen raping her own sister. Showing these in her sentence would have definitely changed the plea deal.
I hope they show that in front to everybody, like in front of her. Like, how embarrassing.
Seriously.
And shameful.
One thing they found out while watching the videotapes was Paul's involvement ended shortly after raping them. They were still alive. Carla was actually the one that was strangling them. So Paul would just do the raping and be done. So Carla was actually the one that was killing them. A month later, Carla goes...
I wonder if she took her anger out on them because her husband had to have these women.
Probably.
Like, what if it was just like that? Like, she hated the fact that he needed to have them, that she
would just fucking...
like, lose it and kind of kill them. You know, like, almost like a jealousy thing.
I could see that.
Right?
Yeah.
And then?
So a month later, Carla goes to court to testify against Paul. And of course she tells him that Paul did it and Paul forced her and she was the victim. But then they fucking show her the tapes of her participation in it.
Did they say how the tapes emerged?
No, I didn't see how.
What should be the mom, the parents?
Yeah.
Imagine if I wonder if the parents ever saw those tapes.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So I think that's the reason why she took the tapes, was because
She didn't want
anybody seeing her participating, laughing, and killing.
Yeah, because even though that was proof, that also was proof against her.
Yeah.
You know?
Idiots.
So Paul's trial lasted 4 months, and on September the 1st, 1995, Paul was found guilty of all 9 charges against him. He was sentenced to life in prison with eligibility for parole in 25 years. So I don't even know why the fuck they gave him the eligibility. Yeah.
Or parole. Mm-hmm.
Because I would have been like, no, you're going to rot in hell.
Death penalty.
Yes. Once he was in jail, he actually confessed to the murder of Carla's little sister and 14 other assaults that police didn't know about. On July the 4th, 2005, 35-year-old Carla was released from prison after serving her 12-year sentence. So the bitch is out. She's living her best life. So Paul had actually raped as many as 30 women, calling him, and the cops calling him the happy rapist, and killed 3 people. That's all I have.
Dang. I'm real salty towards Carla, but I'm a firm believer that whatever you don't really truly answer for here, you will answer for later. Boy.
Like, why even give him that opportunity to even think that he may be getting out? Like, no, you've done all of this stuff. You're staying in there. If anything, I mean, maybe they didn't have the death penalty there. But
well, yeah, because it's Canada. I don't think they have the death penalty there.
True.
But, I can't. I'm over this. I'm done.
Goes to say I'm probably never doing one of these again.
Your wish is granted. You officially don't have to participate in these.
After I get done saying anything to do with kids, I just can't. These are still considered kids because they were 14, 15.
Imagine
young
how
as
scared they were. And that's how they finished out their life. Like, they haven't even done anything to deserve that. I mean, Carla, yeah, she deserves it. I mean...
But she got out at, what, age 35?
35.
That's still young. That's
like,
still really young.
She gets to continue living her life like it was nothing.
She could still get married and have kids after murdering those people, including her own sister.
Yes. Like, 12 years is nothing. Nothing.
We've already lived 2 sets of 12 years.
Yeah. Seriously.
And we're still really young.
Yeah.
So, we want to kind of not end it on such a sad...
These bitches are scared, in other words.
No, that it's not that it's scary. It's that it's fucking sad and disgusting. And I am actually really angry right now.
If only y'all could see Nana's face.
Yes. She, like, I haven't seen this look in her face in a long time.
She's like, since last week.
She always enjoys podcast night, and...
Not today.
So y'all better not ask me to do this again, okay?
So, I guess I'll try to start the light mode.
The lighthearted.
But it's like, I don't have anything, like, super funny or anything, because, like, yeah, it's a sad story. Like, I don't even know how to lighten up the mood. But it's like one of those things that finish and then like the pin drops. Yeah. You know, and it's like, oh.
What now?
So when you were saying Carla and Parla or whatever, so once my godson Jaden and then I have Sadie, so like those are like my babies. Well, those are my babies. And like I was spending so much time with them at one point, I would be like, Satan. And I would be like, I mean... JD. And, like, I would mix their names up. And, yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
My mom actually has called us, like, every name. So, like, sometimes I've been called Christopher, Jonathan. I've been called Gabby, my Nina's name. I've been called Rosie, my aunt's name.
Yeah, that's so funny because that's how my mom is. I get called my brother's name. I get called my aunt's name. I even get called my grandma's name sometimes. I'm just like, how?
My dad used to be like, Samantha, Nicole, Catherine, Celeste. And we would all come, and he'd be like, you. And I'm like, oh, Hannah.
You all would line up.
I know. Yeah, no, we would.
Shit, which one is it?
The tall one. Get over here. Help me with this. All right, so as adults, we don't have anything because we're all sad.
So we're going to bring a happy child
into
this.
Come here. Her name is Sadie because we literally have nothing, and we're actually using my child to do this. So, Sadie, say hi.
Hi. I'm first grade, and I'm 7 years old.
Let me tell you anybody your business. What the hell?
My mama.
Hope you love my Adriana and Crystal and Samantha's video.
Yeah, Sadie thinks it's a video.
Oh.
You know, this generation.
I know.
Well, we hope we have a good day. Love you guys.
Aww. And until next time,
Just wing it.
Bye. That's creepy. The little girl.
See you next time.
Oh my god, we should totally do that.
Anna, don't be using my child for some creepy ass episode.
Welcome to Just Wing It.
Where we literally have no idea what we're doing, and we wing it every day, and it takes us about 10 fucking hours to complete a 30-minute podcast.
Just get it started.
Oh, Dios mío. You know? Go.
Uh-huh.
All right.
What? Oh my god! You scared the fuck out of me. I got scared.
Sorry, guys. I was so angry during this podcast. It had to be canceled.
It never got done.
I didn't even post it.